Hello everyone. Welcome back to another fabulous lesson with us today. This lesson is gonna take us to a different world of facts along with fun with the English language. Before we get into the lesson, let's think about a few questions. What do you call a male deer in English? Is there a different word for a female deer? If you are looking at the young one of a deer, what would you call it? You must have noticed that a deer has a spot pattern on it. Is this pattern different for a male and a female, or are they all alike? You must have seen something growing on the head of a deer. We normally call it a horn. What do you call it for a deer? Have you thought about these terms? The male deer has a term in English. It's called a buck, B-U-C-K. A female deer is a doe. You must have listened to the famous song from an old movie, Sound of Music, which says, "Doe, a deer, a female deer." The young one of a deer is called a fawn, F-A-W-N, and the horns of a deer are referred to as antlers, A-N-T-L-E-R-S. So I think we have got answers to all the previous questions we asked. A male deer is called a buck, a female deer is called a doe, a young deer is called a fawn, the horn on the head of a deer is called an antler, and the last question, are the patterns of the spots same or are they different? Surprisingly, the patterns are different. While I was doing this lesson for you, even I learned quite a few things. I understood that the antlers are branched, they are made of bone, and they are shed annually. So an antler is not a permanent structure. They lose it every year. When we talk about horns, on the other hand, they are permanent structures. They are made of something different from bone, which is called keratin, and they are permanent structures. Unlike the antlers, the horns are not shed annually. They don't lose their horns every year. Now I believe we know the difference between antlers and horns. One is permanent, whereas the other one is shed annually. Let's move to a different world now. It's very common that we all get bitten or stung by an insect. What do we do in such cases? Maybe instantly we might wash the wound, and then do we immediately go to a doctor? What else do we do? There are so many things we can do before we go to a doctor in such cases. Let's see some of them, and let's see if you are familiar with them. The first things we do before we go to a doctor, we call them as first aid. What is the first aid for an insect bite? Have you heard your mother talk about turmeric, or maybe arshina or manjal?
Sarvaguna Sampanna, Arishina enna Sanjeevani. You know what does this mean? What Sanjeevani means? Sanjeevani means life-giving. It has so many medicinal properties, antiseptic properties, that every little injuries that happens at home is administered with turmeric. Mother will come with turmeric, manjal or arishina, and immediately the wound or the bee sting or any such kind of things that happens at home is doctored by mother with turmeric. turmeric is indispensable in almost all the rituals that happens in India. So garlic, I hope you all know and you are all familiar with garlic. This is in almost all the kitchens of India. Remember, garlic too is antiseptic. Another plant that is very common to our yards is red flame ivy. What do you mean by red flame ivy? It is murikuti. Now you can guess, right? What is murikuti? You might have seen murikuti, you might have seen your mom squeezing murikuti and putting it on your cuts. This is an indoor purifier, a wound healer. So with all these medicines and medicinal plants, spices inside our kitchen, we won't rush to the doctor at once for petty reasons. Has anyone seen this? Can you guess? Yes, this is jadika, jaifal or jaikai, and definitely it's a nutmeg. This adds a lot of flavor to many items of our Indian local cuisine. But why are we discussing this here? Is it a medicine? I'll give you a hint. Grate it, take it with honey. That's your home remedy for upset tummy. So please remember, nutmeg with honey will cure your upset tummy.
We now spoke a few things about the first aid or the home remedies we can do at home. Let's look at the words we used to talk about these remedies. There is a magic hidden in those words. This will help you understand the meaning of such words even in future. So let's look at a few words that we used in this context. Let's look at those words and try to expand the meanings of those words and see if we can explain those words to other people. Okay, so be ready to listen to the words. If antiseptic is a word that we use to explain why turmeric is our king, there are other words with which we can describe certain properties of certain things. Antioxidant, anti-tumor, antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, wound healing, gastroprotective activities. Antioxidant, if you split the word into two, anti plus oxidant. This means a substance that protects cells from the damage caused by free radicals. Similarly, try to split each of these given words: anti-tumor, antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, wound healing, gastroprotective. Let's look at the word anti-tumor now. Your division will be anti plus tumor. So what is anti and what is tumor? Tumor is referred to as the stem word. Any word, letter or number we fix before this stem word can be called a prefix in English. The word is prefix. When you form a word with prefix attached, we can say they are prefixed compounds. Prefixed compounds. Now we have spoken about deer, we have spoken about home remedy. Now let's move slowly to a beautiful lesson. When you read any story, there will be men, women, animals, things all present in a story. These things that are present in a story can be called characters. Some of these characters are very important to the story. They are called the major characters. But at the same time, some characters in the story are very important, and there are characters who are not very important. But these characters are important to drive the story forward, or they are important in unveiling the plot of the story. In any story, there will be a series of events which we can call as the plot. So in any story there will be characters. Characters can be major characters or minor characters. Major characters are very important to the story, but minor characters drive the story forward. If you find it difficult to understand this, let me make it easy for you. Think about your favorite movie. Who is the hero in that movie? What happens to that hero? You can see that he will come facing a problem at some point. Because of this problem, there will be feelings, emotions, and actions that will make the hero do or say things quite differently. Now, throughout the movie, we will be watching the hero facing or struggling with this problem. But at the end, when you leave the theatre, you feel that, yes, the problem has been solved. Sometimes the movie ends happily. Sometimes it ends in a tragic mode. You will feel sad for the hero. Sometimes we don't get a clear answer what happens to the hero. We call such ends open-ended movies. So a movie or a story can have different types of endings. But all stories will have characters, and these characters will have problems, emotions, and that will lead them to different actions. Who are the main characters in the story, Jody's Fawn? You can see that it's a family story. There is a father, there is a mother, there is a boy, and there is a fawn. So there are 4 main characters in the story. What is the problem that the family comes up with? And what happens to that character who faces with the problem? We know that Jody's father has come across a very serious problem that has taken him close to death. So he has had a very close encounter with death. And who saved him? Does the story end happily, or is it a story with a sad ending? Let's see what happens in between these beginning and the end. What was the cause of this conflict? The father was bitten by a snake. The kind of snake that has bitten the father is the rattlesnake. It's a very poisonous snake. That is the conflict in the family. Now, the solution is something has to be given to the father to save from this critical position. Father has been saved, but this action has different effects on the father, the son, and somebody else. So some other character is also getting affected by this conflict and the solution. The father is happy, he is saved. The son is happy because his father has been saved. But at the same time, the son is in a dilemma, D-I-L-E-M-M-A. Let's look at the text. On page number 88, in the dialogue, we read so. We use the doe's liver to draw out the poison to save Pa. We can see that this action of killing the doe has been a life-saving option. So it's a happy ending when we think of the father. He says that he never thought he would see another day. If you look at page number 87, this is what he says. I never thought I would live to see another day. But what about the son? On one side, his father has been saved. on the other hand, he is worried because of the effect on the fawn. The fawn has been orphaned. Page number 87 says, "It might be hungry and very scared." Isn't the story interesting? With a few words, we can try to reconstruct the whole story. Let's try to do that. Let's use a few key words you have studied in this lesson to reconstruct the story. Jody's father was bitten by a snake and they killed a doe to save his life as a remedy. Since Jody kept his head, his father was saved. But on the other side, the doe has been orphaned because it has lost its mother, and Jody gets emotionally preoccupied thinking of the plight of the doe that has been left alone in the wild. He shares his concern with his father. You see in the text this dialogue between the father and the son. "Pa, the fawn might be out there yet. It might be hungry and very scared." So now it's your turn to find out what happened to Jody and the fawn. In the meanwhile, till you find out what happened to Jody and the fawn by carefully reading the text, let me tell you a few things you can remember to narrate a story. Suppose you wish to say the story to somebody else, you have to remember a few things. What you see in dialogues in the text, we say that they are in direct speech. But when you talk about the story to somebody else, you have to change the form and put it into reported speech. Let's see what are the changes that happen when you change a dialogue from direct speech to reported speech. When you read a story, you see the dialogues in direct speech. In direct speech, you see the exact words of the character, and they are enclosed in double quotation marks. But when you put that into indirect speech, when you narrate a story, we only report what the character said. So the double quotation marks are gone and certain changes happen to the way they are put down in writing.
Now we will listen to another story from Kannada folklore. The story of Punyakoti. I'll recite few lines of this poem in Kannada. Now let's listen to it. ಎಳೆಯ ಮಾವಿನ ಮರದ ಕೆಳಗೆ ಕೊಳಲನೂದುವ ಗೊಲ್ಲ ಗೌಡನು ಬಳಸಿನಿಂದ ಕರುಗಳನ್ನು ಬಳಿಗೆ ಕರೆದನು ಹರುಷದಿ. ಗಂಗೆ ಬಾರೆ ಗೌರಿ ಬಾರೆ ತುಂಗಭದ್ರೆ ತಾಯಿ ಬಾರೆ ಪುಣ್ಯಕೋಟಿ ನೀನು ಬಾರೆ ಎಂದು ಗೊಲ್ಲನು ಕರೆದನು. ಗೊಲ್ಲ ಕರೆದ ದನಿಯ ಕೇಳಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹಸುಗಳು ಬಂದು ನಿಂತು ಚೆಲ್ಲಿ ಸೋಸಿ ಹಾಲು ಕರೆಯಲು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಿತು ಬಿಂದಿಗೆ. ಸತ್ಯವೇ ಭಗವಂತನೆಂದ ಪುಣ್ಯಕೋಟಿಯ ಕಥೆಯಿದು, ಪುಣ್ಯಕೋಟಿಯ ಕಥೆಯಿದು. So as you heard, ಸತ್ಯವೇ ಭಗವಂತನೆಂದ ಪುಣ್ಯಕೋಟಿಯ ಕಥೆಯಿದು. This is the story of Punyakoti, which celebrates the victory of truth. Now let's look into what happens with the story. A shepherd lived in a village nearby a forest. He had many cows, and Punyakoti was one of the cows, and the shepherd was very fond of this cow. One day, when all the cows went into the deep forest to graze, Punyakoti was humming a melodious song. While Punyakoti was grazing in the forest, her mind was completely engrossed with the thoughts of her beautiful calf, and somehow she wandered into the deep jungle. And at once she realized that she had gone out of the herd, and there came a tiger. The tiger was hungry. You know what happened? It just came in front of the cow, Punyakoti, and she lost all her senses immediately, and she wanted to hug her calf. She knew that her end has come. The tiger roared and jumped in front of Punyakoti. Punyakoti stood humble. She pleaded with the tiger. She wanted to see her calf. The tiger didn't allow. "Oh tiger, spare my life. I am the mother of a young calf, hungrily waiting for me to return. You want me to allow you to go back to your calf? Definitely not. How can I do that? You want me to allow you to go home when I am so hungry?" Now Punyakoti realized that she was in the trap. She has to do something. She has to meet her calf. She pleaded with the tiger. "Oh tiger, please let me go. I promise you." Punyakoti realized that the tiger was right. Tiger preyed on other animals. He ate other animals when he was hungry, as Punyakoti eats grass when she is hungry. So why should he make an exception on Punyakoti? Now finally Punyakoti pleads and she tells the tiger, "Please allow me to go to my calf. I'll say goodbye and I'll entrust my calf to other calf so that she will be fed and she will be taken care of." The tiger thought about it for a while. He felt that somewhere Punyakoti was telling the truth. He wanted to trust her. So the tiger agreed. And immediately Punyakoti thanked the tiger and rushed to her calf in the village. Punyakoti reached home and hugged her child. She requested her friends to take care of her calf. And she asked the other cows, "If she is in front of you, please do not push her away with your horns. If she is behind you, do not kick her." She pleaded. Her friends were very sad. They persuaded her not to return to the forest to be food for the cruel beast. Punyakoti looked at her child. She said nothing, but there were tears in her eyes. Punyakoti was firm that she would not go back on her words. Truth is our father and mother. If we do not abide by truth, the Lord will not like it, said Punyakoti, looking at her child. Taking leave of her calf and her friends, Punyakoti walked towards the forest. Meanwhile, the tiger's tummy was rumbling with hunger. He felt foolish that he had allowed the cow to get away. "Who will return to certain death? She won't come back. Other tigers will laugh at me when they hear of what I have done," thought the tiger. He was convinced he would not see that cow again. Just then, he saw Punyakoti coming towards him. He was so surprised. He asked her sharply, "Why did you choose to come back knowing that you will meet your end?" "I had given my word that I would come back," says Punyakoti. "So I am here. Go ahead and satisfy your hunger. This left the tiger thinking. It was rare for any animal to be so truthful. All right, I think I can hold on for a while till I find some other food. You go home now. Go back to your calf, said the tiger. Punyakoti thanked the tiger and went home to her calf. I'm sure you enjoyed this story. It teaches many things, many values of life. And it is a fable since it has animals as characters. Let's now try a small task. Let's recall the context of the conversation between the tiger and Punyakoti. Let's now try a task and see how creative we are. Imagine that Punyakoti and the tiger are in conversation. Frame the dialogues of this event and remember, creativity has no limits.
If you have noticed, by now you must have understood that there is an order in which things happen in a story, or the plot unveils in a particular order. There are certain things that happen first, and then we listen to a few other things that happen in the middle, which will eventually bring you to the end of a story. When we write a story, or when we write a personal narrative, recalling our own experience, it is important that we show things in the order in which it happened in our life. This process of ordering is what we call sequencing. Sequencing not only helps you in reading and writing, but it also helps you later when you start working in different walks of life. It helps you improve your communication, and it makes you more understandable to the people who are listening to you. So let's understand what is meant by sequencing today through this story. Is it difficult for you to sequence your ideas? Ideas are really powerful. How do you ensure that your ideas are in the right order? Brainstorming can help you. Your brain has umpteen number of ideas inside. You need to put them down so that you can see with your eyes what are the ideas in your mind. A graphic organizer can help you here. You put down your ideas on this graphic organizer. You can always add more details, or you can delete what you don't need. So your graphic organizer can help you sequence your thoughts, whether in speaking or in writing. Now it's time for you to write a personal experience of yours. Remember, when you write your personal experience, the reader must be able to see what you're talking about. So what are the things you must look for? Have you used the best words? Have you chosen the right grammar? Have you chosen the right sentence structures? Is there any error in what you have written? All these must be taken care of. Only then we can enjoy what you write. Let's go in this order. So by now, you have done your brainstorming. You have your graphic organizer in front of you. Using this graphic organizer, you can start writing your first draft. Look at your first draft and check if there are any spelling errors. Have you used the best words, or do you want to replace a few? Are your sentences properly constructed? Can you combine two ideas together and make your sentence look better? Make all corrections you require on your first draft. Rewrite your work. Are you satisfied? If not, edit it again. You can do your spelling check, grammar check, sentence check all over once again. If all your editing is done, your final draft is ready for submission. So let's look at what we have learned today. We have learned quite a few things about deer. We have learnt about home remedies. We know that there are major characters and minor characters in a story. We know that there are 4 major characters in a story, Jody's farm. We know that there is a conflict in the family. We know that the father has been saved, but there are problems remaining with the Fawn and Jody. We even know that we can write properly if we sequence our thoughts properly. We know the power of brainstorming. We know how we can edit and re-edit and make our work look fabulous to the teacher. So let's continue with your journey of inquiry on what happened to Jody. Does he find the Fawn? Will the Fawn be alive? Let your journey continue. We'll meet again soon to see your answers. Thank you.